We're good to start. Okay. Good evening, Council. I'm going to call the meeting to order here at 6 p.m. And I would like to make a couple of announcements. Our Deputy Mayor, Peter Kissmaker, did send regrets for this meeting. And we are going to be going into a closed session at 7 p.m., wherever that falls on our agenda. And I'll hand it over to Councillor Stefanik.
Thank you, Mayor Report. The Council Corporation Township of Hornepayne would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the land on which we gather here today is the Treaty 9, 1905-1906 territory, traditional lands of indigenous peoples. As we work towards reconciliation, may we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And review and note any changes to the agenda. So we do have 2 additions to our agenda. And it would be item 7.5, Hornepayne Lumber LP Policing in the Community item. And item number 8.5, Royal Canadian Legion Branch 194, to the 2024 Remembrance Day service. So if I can get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended, moved by Councillor Ted Shannon, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Be it resolved that Council does hereby approve the agenda as amended. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, first off, we have, well, first of all, 5, declaration of pecuniary interest, declaration of conflict of interest. There are 2 this evening for myself, Council. I'm going to declare actually a conflict to 7.5 that we've, the addition we added, and the other one is for the closed session minutes. And the closed session is item 12. And Councillor Stefanik, if you could chair during those.
Michelle,
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving right into staff reports, we have the acting treasurer, Richard's with us. I don't see your...
I'm here.
There you are.
I am. Hi there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Perfect. Okay, just wanted to make sure because I'm trying out a new set of headphones here to see if I can, how they're going to work. I can adjust the volume then. So I have the report in front of you where I simply listed things I've been working on in the last couple of weeks, I guess since the last meeting. I should advise Council, very, very busy. I am right now. There's a lot going on, and I want to try and get everything cleaned up for 2023 and get working on budget for 2025. And I'd also like to do another interim report to Council on the budget to actual as well. So probably up to at least September, maybe October, and present that next month. So just wanted to give you a heads up that there's a lot going on for sure. And then on the updates, you see my comments on the new multi-res property subclasses. We're finding out, actually Jennifer found out through her contacts with other deputy clerks that a lot of the municipalities in the north, and I believe down my way as well, are delaying that bylaw until 2025. Basically because there's probably not going to be any building permits issued for new multi-res properties or renovations of a property to make a new multi-res in 2024. So we will keep an eye on that and get some a draft bylaw and see what everybody else is doing as far as the percentage of discount. But we won't lose sight of that. Okay. The capital projects financing, CIBC, I have been in touch with them. Actually, I have a meeting with them tomorrow morning to find out what we can put together for our shorter financing terms for things like the breathing apparatus, the new ball field. That's the 2 major items that I think we need to obtain some funding for this year. And luckily, the interest rates are falling, as I mentioned, or I heard from Will is the fellow's name at the CIBC. So we'll probably get the advantage of those reduced rates. Hopefully, we'll have something at the next meeting to move forward with those loans. Infrastructure Ontario, I have a contact. We've been discussing the process of establishing construction loans for next year for both the arena renovations and the Third Avenue major project for the water and reconstruction. There's a bit of a process to go through there, which I thought we should start ASAP. The first thing that we need to do is we now have the audit report, which has been sent in. I need to complete the FIR so that they can then do their analysis, and we can get that in place when we start those two projects in 2025. The landfill closure costs, I did note there that we were not able to provide the auditors with a engineering study to substantiate the liability that would be there. Staff have sent me a couple more reports, so I'm looking at that. I have talked to one of the engineers that's involved with the landfills in Hornepayne, and to do a report that would give us that estimate from a engineering point of view would cost in the range of $3,500 per landfill. And I understand there are the two, there's the sludge site and then the regular landfill site in Hornepayne. So I wanted to keep an eye on that. That individual actually is from up your way. Pitchin is the company, and he was actually in my back door this past Monday, making the same presentation to the council of the municipality that I'm living in. So I wasn't able to go to his presentation, but I just thought it would be of interest. I can get his report up on from their website and just have a look at what his estimates were. Those are the items that I had in the general report. One other thing I did want to mention to council, in our review yesterday of the agenda, the topic come up amongst the senior staff of the number of properties that the township owns that are vacant properties or have had buildings demolished in the last few years. And I believe Dwayne had said that there was up to 10 a year ago that were demolished. And those properties are not selling, or they haven't been sold. I guess a couple may have, but anyway, I would like to propose to council to start thinking about the idea of doing a request for proposal from realtors to actually list the properties through a realtor so that we can establish a good fair market value and have it professionally managed to list, advertise, and hopefully sell some of those properties. Because right now we're not getting any revenue at all from vacant land or any other property that has been vested in the township. And if we can get them sold and moving, it would, as soon as it's sold, it would start generating some revenue for the municipality, even if it's vacant land tax. But hopefully people would be buying those properties with the idea of developing either residential, commercial, or industrial businesses based on the zoning of those properties. So it is something I wanted to just mention to council with the idea, and I would propose that we present a resolution. We actually have one drafted already, but it could be presented at the next council meeting for council's consideration. Does anybody have any questions on any of these items from the report?
Go ahead, Councillor Spanik.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Hi, Richard. I agree with your last statement on page 4 of 4. We just mentioned $7,000 to $10,000 cost, estimated cost for the landfill reserve. I think we should act on immediately as opposed to the project dragging on. And I really like your idea of realtor. I mean, we could get as you said, pass a resolution and get some quotes in for realtors that are interested. And let's move on this one too. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. I have a couple of questions, just to start with the landfill, Richard.
Yes. Yep.
When we did the landfill expansion, and we spent quite a significant amount of money on that, none of that engineering work was done during that time? I'm just wondering how they came up with the estimates and that without
Well,
having those
yeah.
reports.
My understanding is the engineering that's been done and everything to do with the expansion, and that's why I want to go through the reports that we have and just confirm. But my understanding is that in those projects, nobody was really asked to give an estimate of what the cost would be to close the existing site as it sits today, and then there's two factors to that liability: the closing costs and then the monitoring costs for I think it's 20 years. So when the engineering firm was contracted to do the expansion, of course that's not something that they're looking at as what it would cost to close an existing site. They're hoping to get approval and expand it. So what I'd like to do is first of all, verify that there is nothing in any of the reports that we have, and then maybe we can get a couple of quotes. I believe those kinds of dollars, it's small enough that we just need to obtain quotes on getting that done. The main reason for doing that is even if the expansion goes forward, it won't be done in 2024. So we will need for the audit report for 2024 that confirmation for the of that liability. So I would like to move forward on that. So I would suggest at the next council meeting that we will either have the information determined if it is already in a report, and if not, a resolution to proceed, or maybe we simply ask for a couple of quotes and have them ready to present to council so we can award a contract to get this done this year for
Yeah,
for
definitely.
2024 audit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement that we need to get it done. Can we also check, Richard, the RFPs that were put out and ensure
Yes.
that the reporting that we got actually fit our RFP? Because to me, just from memory, I'm pretty sure that we were requesting some of that all in one RFP, I think, when we did the expansion, because
Is
we
that
were
right?
confused about the
Okay.
costs. So,
I will have a look. I would have been surprised, but maybe it was considered at the time that RFP was put out. But I'll definitely look at the RFP and the reports that have come in and get that
yeah,
prepared for the next meeting. Yep. Okay.
okay, thank you for that. And my other question that I have is about, I love the idea of having a realtor. That was actually discussed, I think, at a town hall meeting a few years ago. I think that's
Good.
a great way
Good.
to go. A couple of things though. First of all, I think we should have communication with the HHC and see which properties they would like to utilize for housing first, so we're not giving
Oh,
those to the public.
is there a
And
possibility that they may want some of those properties to either build on, or if there's an existing house, to be part of their rental inventory?
yes, yes, or even
Okay, good.
possibly build to sell and then just generate revenue that way.
Okay.
Um, Another question I had on that too, do we have anything in our documents that cause people to have to build within a certain time period when we updated our official plan and our zoning?
That is something I don't know, but I have seen that in sale agreements in the past where a property
Yes,
has been sold to an individual, but one of the conditions is that they have to, if, let's say it's a residential property, they have to build a residence within 2 years, or the property reverts back to the township. They then get their money back. You can't keep it, but at least you don't you stop people from buying vacant land simply as an investment and sitting on it hoping it's going to appreciate. What we want to do is we want to see it being used as soon as possible. So I think we could
yes.
make that one of the terms of the realtor's sale.
Okay, because I know it's within our CIP that there's different, like if they buy the property off of us and if they build within a certain time frame. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if we utilize that language that I'll let you look into that, if that would be the
Okay.
best approach. So we're using our CIP, that if they're
Great.
buying properties off the township, that
Yeah.
we enforce that part or look at how we can follow those guidelines.
Great. I know there seems to be some interest. I'm excited about that because I didn't realize there were so many properties. And so after yesterday's staff meeting, I actually drafted a resolution. I know it's not on tonight's agenda, but would council want to entertain a resolution that gives staff the authority to proceed with getting some proposals from realtors so that we could hopefully present those proposals at our next meeting and get the ball rolling?
I do believe Jen provided me a draft of that
Okay,
motion. So
good.
after we're done your reports, we can
Yep.
set it
Talk
for
about that.
council's behalf.
Perfect. Okay.
But
Any
yeah,
other questions?
I just want to ensure that we touch base with the HHC so that we don't put all of
That's
the properties, like basically we'll handcuff them for their work.
right. Okay.
Go ahead, Jen.
I just wanted to say, in the motion, it doesn't specify the amount of properties, it just says declared surplus, so
Surplus
Okay.
properties.
that shouldn't
Yeah.
impact HHC if council does move forward with it tonight.
Okay, so we're not
There's no-
saying there's all the properties.
Yeah, not a specific number.
Okay,
No.
perfect.
My suggestion would be if we're going to provide, if we're going to proceed with contacting realtors, one of the things we can do is come up with a list of the properties that we currently have and the ones that we're looking at vesting right now. And then we could provide that to the board of HHC and let them have a look at it while we're in the process of selecting a realtor.
That sounds like a good game plan. I
Yeah.
like that. Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, any other questions? I took the floor there, Rick.
No,
No,
that's
good.
good.
Okay, go ahead, Richard. You're good to
Okay, so
continue.
the next item is the report on the operating budget versus actual. As I said at the last meeting, I had provided council with a quick report on where we stood department by department. The report that is numbered TR 2024-01 is sort of an update of all of those. So I know on the agenda tonight, there's 4 actual attachments. The first one is the main one. It is the most up to date, and it provides my comments on the audit itself, which I mentioned at the last meeting. But then what I've done is I've gone through and provided the first page 3 actually is the operating budget versus actual for 2023. You'll see that that's a little under 400,000 in total. That's operating budget revenue versus expenses, and to me it sort of sets it out line by line so that we can review exactly where. So there's some good news in there. There are some departments, the water and wastewater, both had a surplus compared to what the budget was. The library had a small surplus. The arena had a surplus. But then we did have some significant costs, namely legal. The other was tax write-offs, and in the building. The Public Works Department, some excessive cost, I shouldn't say excessive, very high costs on equipment to keep it going. And that's another thing that Dwayne and I have talked very briefly about, but we do need to get an up-to-date asset management plan so that we know what equipment has got to be replaced and when, and start planning for that so that we're not dumping a lot of repair money in equipment that we're just putting patches on. So I think that explains, yes, overall there was a deficit, but not near as bad as was reported by the auditors. The big difference is, I know it makes it very difficult to understand, but the financial statement has to be done under PSAP, where all of your capital spending disappears. It goes over to a capital asset, which is then amortized. And like there's over $1 million worth of amortization in 2023 for the Township of Hornepayne. It's to me, I think it's a lot easier to follow an actual that is presented on the same basis as municipalities do budgets. And I think what would have been, in hindsight, a lot better if I would have had the audit report at least a couple of weeks before it was presented. I could have probably done this type of report and had that comparison so that the auditor could present his report and we could discuss why there are differences between the audit report and the actual budget to actuals. Okay. I would suggest that in the future. Council have had some time to look over those department reports. Does anybody have any questions on any of that, or would they like me to look into anything further?
Questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Stephen.
Just a comment, Richard. Excellent blueprint. Self-explanatory. I like the comparison. Numbers don't lie. Excellent work. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question, just as from the first page of the background.
Yep.
How am I to know when I'm getting a letter and I shouldn't be signing it? I'm getting it from the auditors, and then we had conversations back and forth. Like there was no indication that I shouldn't sign it, and I had signed them in the past.
You have signed in the past as well, eh? I'm surprised about that. It's very difficult. Like I know as an auditor, they're looking for the most senior, normally the most senior staff that are involved day to day in the operations that would have the best knowledge on whether everything that is available has been presented to the auditors. That's what the management letter is. We have provided you with everything that we have. Normally, a council member is there to set policy and make sure that staff are following the policies, but they're not there to watch the day-to-day operations and know everything about the financials every day, every month of the year. So it does make a lot more sense that it is our case, the CAO and the treasurer. And the problem this year was the treasurer being off, and then the CAO just, in her last days, prior to I guess she was gone by the time the audit report was just when the audit report was being presented. So there's nothing wrong with them presenting it to council for signature. I would have, and there's nothing wrong with the council member signing it. I just think it's better for everybody if it is senior management that is making that statement and putting their name on the paper saying, yes, we have provided you with all of the information that we have for you to review and make your opinion. So I wouldn't feel bad, Madam Mayor, as signing it. And I don't know how you would know not to sign it. And in a situation like this, it was probably a good idea. But I think in the future, it really should be senior staff, especially if you've got senior staff that have been on board for that year that they're doing the audit for.
So is that something then that we should pull, set out in our financial and controls policy, budget controls policy in there? Like it should be somewhere so that it flags for, like I'm thinking of, like for me, it's fine now, it's flagged for me, but the next person that sits in the seat,
good
they
point.
should understand if you're getting a letter from the auditors that,
they want
it should be
signed,
bounced back to staff.
Maybe not a bad idea that we put a clause in there that maybe, just a line or two that explains what is an engagement letter, explain what it is, and then explain what a management letter and who should be signing in those cases, who typically would sign them. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Another question that I have on the actuals versus budget at our auditor, when our auditors were here. So they had a general surplus account that showed just over $800,000 in there. And they said that was where most of this money had come from. So I'm a bit confused now. If we've had a loss of just over 300,000,
Yeah. The
what is the actual cash financial health of our municipality?
I don't know where the 800,000 figure came from, because the GL account actually had $1.3 million showing as a surplus. And I had said to the auditors, once I got the financial statements, is that surplus in that account funds that could be transferred to reserves? And I was advised that it could be, but they cautioned against it because of the accounting difference between PSAP, the actual financial statement, and the method that we use for budgeting. Well, it turns out that 1.3 million that is in that one account will disappear when we make the final adjustments, their journal entries for the end of 2023, and then we close 2023, because the amortization will be booked as an expense over $1 million, and that's going to wipe that account out totally, or almost totally. So
okay, so
yeah.
I got to get clarification there. So
Yeah.
The general account then is account on paper. I'm talking
Yes.
about, okay, so that general account, surplus account is account on paper. That's not actual cash funds.
No.
My concern was our cash funds account that
And-
because I was a bit confused at our audit, how we could pay for such a
large loss.
Yeah, a large
Yeah.
loss without, finding some debt. And the other question I have to follow up with that, so now that it is a general account, our reserves are separated out. They are not
Yes.
in our general cash account that we use for our everyday accounting. They are separated out.
No,
No, they're not.
the funds are actually in your bank accounts and any investment accounts that are on the within the municipality. So when we put money into one of the reserves, we don't actually take the cash from the general bank account and move it into, let's say, a savings account or an investment account. It is part of the operating funds of the municipality. So when we did have a loss this past 2023, so that does affect operating. And I know Bonnie right now is watching as we go, because we've had a couple of things. We've bought the new breathing apparatus. We've got the final bill for the ballpark, where we were to put in some, I'm going to say longer term, whether it's 5 or 10 years. We haven't finalized that yet, but some financing for those two projects. So we need to recover some cash for cash flow based on those two projects. But we are not in an overdraft, but there is an authorized overdraft at the bank. So because we have a lot of outstanding taxes, and we don't carry a lot of short-term debt. When invoices come in, they're generally paid within 30 days or shortly thereafter. So we don't drag them the way some businesses might drag their payables. Municipalities are generally pretty quick to process payments and get them out the door and have things looked after. So cash flow can be an issue, and I know Bonnie is watching it. She had to move some funds because we have two major accounts. I believe the one is at the credit union and one is the CIBC. And she advised me she was moving some funds from one to another because of a check run. And then we just did get our last payment from OMPF. Some good news there. I think I had advised council in the past that because we didn't have our FIR filed by the end of August, that they might start holding back. The province typically would start holding back payments like that. They sent a letter out last week and confirmed that they have extended the deadline for the FIR to December 31st, because we're not the only municipality. Even I asked the Township of Stone Mills, is where I'm living, and I asked them where the 2023 audit report is. They haven't got theirs finished yet either. Everybody is behind. So if the audit report's not done, the FIR is not done. So the province has extended it because of this new requirement under PSAP. Anyway, so funds are still flowing as they normally would. I guess I should have made that a note of that in my report to council as well, that there is not the worry of the province holding back any payments because we don't have that completed.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that then. So if our reserve funds are within our general account and we had to utilize cash to pay for that deficit, then our reserve funds actually have been depleted behind the scenes. Because we don't have the cash behind those reserve funds then.
No, but we may have the assets, and the assets might be some cash, some investments, some receivables. Taxes receivable is one that we're going to be working on to get that under control. Recover what we can from the school boards with adjustments.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye on it and make sure things are being watched as far as cash flow. So if we do need to draw out of reserves, that we can come up with that cash. If you want, I can try and put together a quick and dirty, bank investments, liabilities, just to show what assets and what the reserves are and where that money is. If it's in receivables, is it in bank? Where is it? Okay.
I would appreciate that, council.
Okay.
I'm looking for your, I don't want to put Richard to work here. Yes, okay. Yeah, I think that would be a good call, Richard, just because if we're going to maximize interest, then maybe in our budget and controls policy or our reserve policy, we ensure that monies that we put into reserve then are, maybe small GICs that revolve over or something, so that we're maximizing that. I'm not sure. It just seems that when it's sitting in our main account, how much interest if we have $1 million in our, well, I'll wait till your report to see, and then we can figure that out. I don't want to make assumptions.
Okay, and I would respectfully request some time to do that, just because I don't think it is as high on the priority list as some of the other things that I have to get done. Close the year. HST returns have got to be brought up to date again. The FIR has got to be done. I want to get these long-term debts in place. I want to look as we get, we're a little over 2 months away from the year end. I want to get some up-to-date reports to each department, and so that everybody knows where we're at, and we watch the spending for the next 2 months to try and ensure that we stay as close to budget as we can or under. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
sure. I'm going to, what to prioritize. So.
Yeah, and I will put it on my to-do list, and I would commit to have it not maybe for the next council meeting, but 2 meetings from now at the latest. Okay.
Okay. And another question that I wanted to pose to you this evening was, because you had talked about upcoming budget talks, have you thought about any dates that you'd like to propose for those special meetings?
I have not, other than I'm still thinking I would love to get the first meeting towards the end of November, and then maybe a second meeting in December. And then hopefully, if everything goes smooth, we can try and finalize the budget at the first meeting in January. I think that would be an ideal time schedule to try and put together. So that's my goal there.
Okay, I just don't want to hinder it. So the first meeting, it would be basically the presentation of where you think the budget should be and all of that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the second meeting would be our council discussion on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think last year when we did it, we basically concentrated on operating revenues and expenses first. And I think I've got a better handle on some things this year to do a better job at budgeting. Like I've said, some of the numbers I was basically following what had been budgeted for in the past. Now I'm seeing what some actual spending is and what needs are. And things like, our legal bills are high, and we have not been budgeting high numbers there. We should be, because we can, if we know that those costs are going to continue. The audit bill is another one that, in my opinion, was terribly high and is still again this year. But I think when we get the RFP, I hope we've got that done before we complete the budget for 2025, and maybe we've got a lot better handle on what that's going to be next year. So,
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just
Good.
to let you know that inclusively from the 18th to the 26th, I'm unavailable.
Okay.
From the 26th of November
18th to the 26th. Okay.
Yes. And but from November 26th in the evening until the 29th, I could possibly be available virtually for that first meeting, if it's going to fall in there. Okay. I would like to be present.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Good.
you, Jen. Go ahead.
I do believe our second meeting is scheduled on November for the 27th.
Yes.
So we could potentially see about including it on there.
Okay, and I already reached out to Councillor Stefanik. He'll be chairing that meeting because I am at other meetings for the
correct.
town then, but maybe I'll just come in for that part.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, Richard. I don't want to hinder the process at all, so we'll make it work.
Yeah. Okay, super.
Okay, any further questions so far?
Good.
Okay, carry on.
Great. I have no other comments. Just if there's any other questions on the that report on the budget versus actual, and my comments. If not, I think we're ready to move on.
All council is good? Okay. Yep, we're all ready to move on. So we do have, I believe it's 3 possible motions from this discussion. Yes, go ahead. Just one, sorry. Why did I think 3?
There's 2 more later on in the agenda.
Sorry, that's just my brain not working well. Okay, and this was the one about the properties, surplus properties. Okay, I'll read it out to council and then I'll get a mover and a seconder if you. Yes, go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, I didn't catch. Did everyone all in favor for the reports?
No, I haven't even read that out yet.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay, so the one that was presented tonight that they drafted for us is whereas the township owns several properties which have been deemed surplus, and whereas these properties are not currently generating tax revenue for the township, and if sold could be developed as new residential, commercial, or industrial properties depending upon the zoning of each property, and whereas the acting treasurer has recommended that the township employ the services of a licensed realtor to advertise and sell these surplus properties. Therefore, be it resolved that council does hereby authorize staff to proceed with the request for realtor services. That's the motion that was drafted for us. Okay, I'll get a mover and a seconder for it. Moved by Councillor Drago Spanik, second by Councillor Ted Cheneman. There's no amendments in it, so I'm not going to reread it. Those in favor? And that is carried.
Great, thank you.
I'll put that to Jen, so I don't have it in my paper, sorry. Thank you. Okay, and then we need to acknowledge receipt of the okay, and to acknowledge receipt of the reports received tonight, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Cheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby receive the acting treasurer's departmental report and TR 2024-01 2023 operating budget versus actual as provided by the acting treasurer as information. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, thank you, Richard. And I look forward to your next reports.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to correspondence action. And we have 20 minutes, council, out from our close, so we'll continue on. Okay, the first one is 7.1, and Jen, did you want to speak to this?
Yes. So The letter or the correspondence stems from a phone call I received from the correspondent regarding the animal bylaw, and their take on it. I advised that council has acknowledged that the animal bylaw needs to be reviewed, and that is in my list of upcoming tasks. However, it has been paused for the foreseeable future until we hire a new CAO, and advised that they could provide their concerns and their thoughts to council through a letter or email. So that's what this is from.
Okay. Do we want to, so that we don't have to bring, if we get more correspondence in the meantime, is there something we can do? Or can staff just hold back the correspondence till this comes to council?
Yeah, I can
And they can
advise
give-
that it'll be.
Yeah, okay, that we are going to be doing that. Any questions on that, Councillor Stewart?
We have a comment. Once we have a CAO, I'd like to see an investigation, same size of community as us, not bigger, not smaller, roughly same size, to see what's the status of in their policies. So then we have some grasp on it. Not a municipality of 5,000 or 50,000, roughly anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 people.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer the comment to Jen, because I think Jen's been working on this in the background,
No
so
problem.
Jen, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I can advise, I've been looking at municipalities nearby, and our bylaw enforcement officer is from Manitowoc. And so he has shown me theirs, and I've looked at other ones in the area. So I do see how
Okay.
other places,
Thank you. I'm glad,
Yeah.
we look forward to, once we get our information back, we'll discuss it further.
Yeah, and I
Thank
think,
you.
Jen, you have a plan of action
Good.
of how you wanna deal with this
yes.
once the CAO's in
Yep.
place, right?
Yeah, I'd like to bring a report to council outlining the issues that we've had, how other places do it, and then what I recommend as potential ways to mitigate those issues and move forward, so.
Okay, and at that time, if council wanted to incorporate some public engagement, we could at that time too, right?
Absolutely.
In writing the bylaw, okay.
Yep, we could definitely have a open session for,
And we could just do that at a regular meeting?
Yep.
And have open.
Excuse me.
Okay, if there's no further comments on that, and we don't need, we do have a motion to accept.
yes.
A second. To receive as information, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Dragos Fang, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby receive item number 7.1 K Henry, concern regarding the animal bylaw as information. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on, we have 7.2. Okay, and council, you did see when I received this correspondence, I asked Jen to talk with Michael, because, and investigate how we redo a motion, and do you want to speak to it, Jen?
Sure. So we do have a section within our procedural bylaw. It is section 14.12 for reconsideration of a motion. It goes over the reasons as to why, the timelines, and how it can be done. So it can be done if there's new information, if there's incorrect statements made, an error in the documentation, etc. It has to be brought forward by someone who voted in favor for the original motion. It can be brought forward only once in the 12-month period from the date that it was first decided. And so when it should council wish to reconsider this motion, there would need to be a motion passed first to agree to reconsider it, and then a second motion will be brought to debate the original motion. So from my understanding, council can choose, well, a member of council can choose to bring up or move a motion to reconsider, or you can choose not to.
Okay, so, Councillor Stack?
Yeah, since I moved it, I will bring up the motion to reconsider.
Okay. And I think you gave me that, right?
Yep.
And do we do that this evening, or?
We can do that right now, yeah.
Okay, I just don't want to cut it short on time. Okay, I need a mover, so it's moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, and I need a seconder.
I can do that.
Okay, second by Councillor Belinda Kissemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby agree to reconsider resolution number 2024-221. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, and then we can, I open up the floor for discussion on reconsidering the items that are brought forward in the letter.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor
I do have
Chang.
a response. Now, it is kind of lengthy, so I did print copies of it if you want, while I read it along, if you want to read it along.
Sure,
Is that okay? I know
Is there
Councillor
copies for
Stefan.
everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the concerns raised by the correspondence. And if you recall our discussion at June's council meeting, it was certainly not intended to slight anyone. We were not slighting or in any way implying any disrespect to the presenter or the group represented in the delegation. We were not rejecting their rights or implying tolerance or intolerance. I believe that is entirely the interpretation of the author of the correspondence before us. And I quote from the correspondence: "Changing the word celebrate to the word recognize is not on its face offensive," end of quote. And that is correct. There was and there is not anything offensive intended. Any derogatory interpretation is out of our control. Again, I quote, "Removing the sentence referring to the work that still needs to be done and identifying it as an unknown agenda seems to me to say the council is not sure that this is the right direction for our society to take," end of quote. Madam Mayor, I do not believe that was your intent when you commented on the proposed change, nor the intent of the councillors. At no point was there any discussion to that regard. The change from celebrate to recognize was purely pragmatic. It was about fiscal responsibility rather than diminishing the significance of the group being recognized. The revision was intended to protect the township from the possibility of any undue or unexpected costs or obligations that could be incurred in the future. Recognize is an accepted synonym for celebrate. The difference is that recognize, while still a verb, does not infer that there will be a festive event associated with it. Celebrate infers there would be a social activity, a festive event, or a joyous gathering. Costs are associated with celebrations. Future financial obligations are associated with celebrations. And I understand that in the present there has not been an ask for financial assistance. I also understand that historically, pride gatherings emerged from the first large-scale protests in 1971. Since then, protests have evolved into celebrations which have transcended into huge financial investments for community, provinces, and federal coffers. I stress, recognize can honor the contributions and importance of a group without implying a financial commitment. Lastly, if we revert to the original wording, are we prepared to celebrate with future groups who request celebrations? This could very easily evolve into an expensive and precedent-setting decision. It is our responsibility to ensure council is not overwhelmed with requests for celebrations that could strain resources. Let me close with this. These are the Oxford and the Webster's Dictionary definitions of the verb celebrate. Acknowledge, a significant or happy day or event with a social gathering or an enjoyable activity. To observe a holiday, perform a religious ceremony, or take part in a festival. Or to observe a notable occasion with festivities. So in summation, I believe we are reaffirming council's commitment to inclusivity and to support all or for all community groups. But I stand by our original decision to substitute recognize instead of celebrate and the removal of the sentence referring to the work that still needs to be done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments from council?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. Councillor.
I don't think the word celebrate means if you have to put out funds. I really, truly don't, not even for 1/100th of a second, not even a millisecond. When you celebrate something, there's no money attached to it all the time. They celebrate in the sense of being who they are. That's why we embrace it. I am all inclusive, equality, and I've worked this for the last 4 years. So me to celebrate that, I'm not asking anybody else to donate funds to my cause, whatever the cause is. I respect that. So that's, I think, the difference being, because I thought about quite a bit after, because That meeting was a long meeting because I went back to the meeting, I viewed it. It was a long, tough meeting and it was brought up and I moved it, I agreed with it. Hindsight is 2020. I looked at other municipalities also that they passed very similar and they left the word celebrate. They did not move, change or alter to another word. So I respectfully suggest that we should stay at celebrate because I do not think that applies financial. I respectfully say that.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Kissmaker?
I'm not sure what I think. I didn't mean to offend anybody, that's for sure. I don't think celebrate means, I'm with Drago on that one, I didn't take it that way. I see what you say. If we're offending someone, I don't mean to offend anybody. It's, you know, it's, to me, we can go back to what was already stated in the previous, and it doesn't matter to me, it really doesn't.
Well, my comments are, thank you that you enclosed the definition of celebrate,
Yes,
because it does infer that
Yeah.
there should be an activity or could be. We might think of it any other way when we look at it. And I agree with what Drago's saying, like in this case, it's probably meant to celebrate the personhood and what they've chose. But we don't just write resolutions for one group, we write them for our entire community. And it could be interpreted that we could possibly have a financial obligation. And I stand on that the same as when we passed this back in June. I stand on those same comments. And I wouldn't want to, if we are going to use the word, like when we do for July 1st celebrations and we do give to that, I want it to be implied that we are funding, or the Santa Claus Christmas party. So and the other part that I have to say is some of the letter that was received infers that decisions were made for underlying causes like offense and hurt, which was not the way the decision was made at all. And by converting back to the original sentencing structure of the motion or resolution, I wouldn't want to infer that I agree with the letter that was written to us and presented to us to do that. So I'm in favor of not changing the resolution and keeping it as stands, and maybe have more clarity in the future of why we choose to do what we're doing, but that's my take on it. And I have to revert back to whatever our definition of a certain word is, doesn't mean that's the way our policies, our resolutions will be implied. They'll be implied by the legal or the definition as defined. And I do want to reiterate too, I think everyone has said this at this table, this motion was not meant to cause offense or hurt in any means. Like, we, at this council table, was the first council under my time as mayor that did a strategic plan, and we put inclusive. We are trying to be an inclusive community. So those are my thoughts on it. I wouldn't want to, and mainly, I just don't want to agree with the interpretation that was given before us of why we chose. I adamantly disagree with it. It was not to be hurtful or to offend.
no, not at all.
And I referred to you, Jen, on what are the next steps if because we're open for debate now, do we put the motion forward as is, or do I put the motion forward? I'm just not sure.
So we did get consensus with regards to the actual motion to reconsider.
Right.
So from that, it means that we are treating this motion like it has not happened. So we are fully reconsidering it, so it will either be read the way that it was initially passed or with the changes, but it will need to be moved, seconded, and read out again.
Okay, so I put it up to council then. We're looking at just one word from celebrate to recognize. That happens, I believe, 3 times in the document.
If I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
I mean, in the resolution that we passed, I mean, the second paragraph says, whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to prevent discrimination, promote acceptance and inclusion of all, to support the development of harmonious and respectful relationships amongst all members of the community. I think that says there isn't an offense, there's nothing offensive in it, the intent isn't there, but we need to be fiscally responsible as well as making the right choice as a council. That's my thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'm not sure how to proceed. I can read the original motion that we put out.
Yeah, if council wishes, if there are different wishes, like someone can request a recorded vote if there are gonna be different.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm just not sure how I put the motion on the floor. I'm gonna put the motion on the floor as the one that we had passed in June, and then we can have a discussion, if that suits everyone. Okay, moved by Councillor Ted Shenneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Whereas June is recognized as Pride Month in Canada and around the world as an opportunity to recognize sexual diversity, promote equal rights, and build awareness of the challenges faced by the 2SLGBTQI+ community. And whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to prevent discrimination and promote acceptance and inclusion of all, and to support the development of harmonious and respectful relationships among all members of our community. And whereas the Township of Hornepayne recognizes the diversity of our gender and sexual minority communities, including two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, and more, 2SLGBTQI+, and expresses a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our organization and our community. And whereas during Pride Month, we can all reflect on the progress made to recognize and protect the rights of 2SLGBTQI+ communities, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as Pride Month in the Township of Hornepayne. I hope I read that over. So it's on the floor for further discussion. And I put this to a vote. Those in favor? Those against? Do we want further discussion? I'm not seeing any hands, sorry.
I do.
Go ahead, Councillor.
I think I personally erred. I went back and I revalued that the discussion took place and it was really quick. I think I dropped the ball on this, and I admit it, because I felt very rarely in 10 years that we get a resolution from another group outside the community, inside the community, that we ever change once a resolution is set. Rarely. It happened a few times. You may a couple times. That's a fact. I don't rarely forget. Most of the time, 90% of the time, we do not change items. And that time I was exhausted. I wasn't feeling well. And celebrate means a lot of things to different people. And I repeat myself, to me, does not mean financial. 100% not. But members of council group want to revert back to original. I'll be more cognizant of next time somebody requests a change. Trust me. I'll be very cognizant.
Yeah, and I do want to speak to that too, about changing motions. We have in the past, like we talked about it with our strategic plan, because we've changed support resolutions and motions to ensure they reflect our mission and what we want to see in our community. So, and like Councillor Stefanik said, we have changed some of them in the past. I don't know what the percentage is, but I know we have in the last term and this term have looked at support resolutions and have filtered them through our values to make sure they stand for Hornepayne. So.
Yeah.
And I think we just did that with the Hornepayne Health Unit too many meetings back, so. Any further discussion? Shannon?
I quoted that pride gatherings emerged from the first large-scale protest in 1971. That came off the Government of Canada website, and then it said it moved right into the fact that since then the protests have evolved into celebrations that transcended huge financial investments for community, provinces, and Canadian coffers. It turns into, and not just this, it could be me presenting something, and if I use the word celebrate, and then I come back next year and say, you know what, we're gonna celebrate that, and I'd like your support. We've got then an obligation to be able to continue with that. And the Oxford and the Webster Dictionary are very true that they state that a celebration in part includes a festival, a festivity, again, and there's a financial obligation to it. Whether our personal interpretation of that definition, or whether we agree with it or not, does not change the legal definition of what a celebration is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, any further comments on this item? All right, is council prepared to vote this time? Sorry, I put that forward too quickly last time.
Personally, I just don't find any problem using celebrate or recognize. So I'm kind of torn here because, like, you can celebrate, but you don't have to actually be part of it. Or you can recognize, but you're just recognizing everything, you're covering the whole thing. That's the way I'm taking it. I don't know.
The difference is, if I may, the difference is the verb recognize does not include the action part of it. Celebrate has the action of we're going to participate in the festivity, and for council it's a financial participation is the thing that comes down. And once you celebrate one, it doesn't matter what that is. If someone else brings a resolution and it has the word celebrate in it, are we discriminatory if we say, well, we're not going to? Well, we recognize this one and we said we're celebrating this one, but not. And it's a financial consideration that we need to be able to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Stefanik.
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of history lesson. Over the 10 years I've been here, plus now at 26, 2 groups came to the municipal council for their approval. One group was approved financially and one wasn't. That's how the cookie crumbled. There was no discriminatory against one group. It's just the fact there was no more funds available, or the other group requested a large amount. I don't think handcuffs us. I really don't think it handcuffs us because we say celebrate. I honestly disagree with that. They come, any group comes here, there's no guarantees that the municipal council of Township of Hornepayne is going to approve that. It'll be on the merit of the event that we approve things, and above all, if you have the funds. So I don't think there's a commitment made to anyone or anybody at any time. From my past experience for the last 36 years.
Yeah, unfortunately, if I may, then I think that we've evolved in the last 36 years.
Right.
And there are organizations and sometimes leaders in organizations who just look for an opportunity to cause friction.
In this case, though, I'm looking into the future, that if we were to celebrate and not, there's no interpretation on my part or whatever, that the person that submitted the letter would be the person, any other group that came and then was seeking funds for this particular type of event, I think we would be hard pressed. And it would be very difficult, because we're having a difficult time choosing between recognize and celebrate, that we would have a difficult time saying no. And that's where I would rather we should look at we've talked about our financials tonight. We've historically donated to a few community-wide events, and we should look at what those are, because I know the discussion will be lively and debated, if it was to come up, and I would rather minimize it now. And I'm sticking to recognize.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Last one.
Go ahead, Greg.
We could revisit the issue in 1 year's time, correct?
Yes, yes.
It's any other council that are watching live. Okay,
Yeah.
And also it'll probably be brought back next year for next June.
yeah, okay.
And maybe we
Fine.
can have a discussion about our budgeting requirements, because
Okay.
what I'm looking at is we usually try and save money for the end of the year for the annual Christmas party that the children, and that's all run volunteer.
Mhm.
But if we were to deplete our funds earlier in the year without consideration of what we give to each year, that could possibly put us in a bind. So I think at budget talks, we should be talking about what we're going to give to annually, and then have a process that whatever those extra funds are, that any group can come and ask for them. So I'm putting the motion back for a vote for council. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, council, for the lively discussion.
And thank you for the input.
There we go.
Okay, we're after 7 o'clock, so I thank you, council, for the discussion we had, but we are running a bit late for our presentation, so I am going to move our meeting to 12 of your agenda. And if I can get a mover and a seconder to close the meeting. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting at 7:06 PM be closed to the public in order to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, pursuant to section 239 2BDF of the Municipal Act 2001. Those in favor? And that is carried.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder to return to open, moved by Councillor Ted Shannon, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, be it resolved that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby return to open council at 8:19 PM. Those in favor? And that is carried. And there's no business arising from the closed session at this time. So we'll carry on with our regular agenda, and we were at item 7, correspondent action item 7.3, request for donation. I open up the floor for discussion of council.
Were we able to make a donation? And from where?
I did ask Jen for what was left in our account, and
I spoke with Richard. Council has a donations account that has $1,000 in it annually. As of July 31st, council has used $300, so there's $700 remaining.
okay, Councillor Spanik.
I wish them luck, but I like to keep our dollars, tax dollars in our community. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm very strong on that issue.
Yeah, when I read this, I thought this would have been a great time if we were further along. We're gonna have it on our discussion about marketing and branding our community, and we had that being in place, but at this time, I just don't see us having the staff or to participate at, say, a gold sponsor level and just engaging that way. So I'm not in favor at this time. And did we have a motion for this, Jen, or?
There is a motion on the agenda,
on the
yes.
agenda? Oh, yes, I have it here.
Which I imagine if council's not in favor will be defeated.
Okay,
Yes.
are we able to accept it as information, or because they're requesting an action, I guess we can't? Go ahead, Councilor.
Through Mayor, if there's no mover or seconder, it dies on the table.
Sure.
100%. I know that 100%.
Yeah, once you have a mover and seconder, you have to do something with it, but
Right.
if it was not moved or seconded, we can just delete it from the agenda.
Disappears.
Okay,
I'm
Or
fine
from
with
the
that.
minutes.
okay. And if there's no further discussion, then we'll carry on. No one's moving that? Okay. 7.4, Good Roads Establishment of an Ontario Rural Road Safety Program. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Shannon, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas official statistics from the Government of Ontario confirm that rural roads are inherently more dangerous than other roads, and whereas despite only having 17% of the population, 55% of road fatalities occur on rural roads. And where rural, northern, and remote municipalities are fiscally strained by maintaining extensive road networks on a smaller tax base, and whereas preventing crashes reduces the burden on Ontario's already strained rural strained health care system. I think we have 2 strains in
Yeah,
there.
I will remove that one.
Okay, thank you. Whereas roadway collisions and associated lawsuits are significant factors in runaway municipal insurance premiums, and preventing crashes can have a significant impact in improving municipal risk profiles. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby request that the Government of Ontario take action to implement the Rural Road Safety Program that Good Roads has committed to lead, which will allow Ontario's rural municipalities to make the critical investments needed to reduce the high number of people being killed and seriously injured on Ontario's rural roads. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Pramit Sakaria, Minister of Transportation, the Honourable Kinga Sirma, Minister of Infrastructure, the Honourable Rob Black, Minister of Agriculture, the Honourable Lisa Thompson, Minister of Rural Affairs, the Honourable Trevor Jones, Associate Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, FNOM, and the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, with a copy to Good Roads. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, there being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 7.5. And I declared a conflict, so I'm gonna step out during this, and Councillor Stefanik, you're gonna take the role as chair.
Thank you.
And I'll take my phone too, okay?
Personal or mayor?
I'll tell you what I have. I have brought neither. I will
Do you want to take the CAO phone?
Sure. Will you
Okay,
just text that?
yes, I will, here, I'll write down the code for you. I have to remember what it was.
Okay, thank you. May I have input from honorable members of council on this letter, and we can discuss the issue? Please.
I think basically what this letter is for is to give support on saying that we need policing in Hornepayne, because a lot of us have talked about it at the table here, and then just because of things that have happened and things that could have happened, we want to, the mill wants to show support on, that we do need policing within the community a lot more. So saying that, when I knew this was going on or read this, it was basically, can we get more support letters? And as a group, send it to somewhere to say, these are the things that we're concerned about, so maybe the police themselves can use our letters as input in getting help, because what I'm hearing is even the police themselves are saying they need support or something to say that they need more people. So can we do this? Like, can we maybe get a letter from the hospital saying that they could get something, like, I don't know. Jen?
Would it be beneficial for me to reach out to Sergeant Bellinger to see who we could write letters to on their behalf to help them? If there is a governing body for them
That all this could go to in
Mhm.
order to say, hey,
because
this is what is being noticed, this is what people are feeling, because this is exactly, this could help. And that's what it was meant for, is to say that we want to provide you with support in order to get somewhere. So,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, please.
The reality is that most occurrences happen in the evening or at night.
yes.
I mean, and we have nothing, right? I mean, that is the problem. We have officers who live in town, but none of them are on call. They're not like it's not like Dwayne or someone that there's an on-call person. They have people who live here but there's no one ever on call. That isn't part of the mandate. So we need to be able to get some coverage in the evening. I mean, that is when the majority of major things happen. I mean, yes, there's speeding goes on in the daytime too and stuff, but I mean, occurrences like this happen typically at night. Somebody gets impaired or whichever, and there's impaired driving, there's impaired behaviors and stuff, and it's typically after hours. We need to have some coverage. So, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think if you get the key contact, that person that can make some decisions. My synopsis of this is the second major instance that happened last few months. Second one, no one was hurt, thank goodness.
That we know of.
That we know of, thank you. And fourth one in a year and a half. And that's because I went back in my notes. Sooner or later, someone could get hurt badly.
And
There'll be liability issues.
it's not, the other thing too, it's not just within Hornepayne. It's in other communities like Chapleau, Wawa. They're hearing the same thing, or we're hearing the same thing, and it's, okay, so what can we do to say, someone better pay attention because we need your help. And we are paying for a service, and
It's a fair amount.
And yeah, we need our money's worth.
If I can make a comment, when the sergeant was here, unfortunately I was really sick, and I did watch the proceedings after, because I wasn't involved that night at all. I watched it twice. I thought there was more questions than answers at that meeting, and I gotta be sincere about it. I was walling back and forth. Yes, we have a problem, no, we have a problem, but nothing was concretely, and I gotta be honest, done.
No, the answer was the same regardless. It was, we don't have the resources. We don't have the
We have-
resources. We don't
The
have
thing is, with this letter, maybe, and letters,
Yeah.
we can make a case to go higher, so I think we should.
And I agree with Counselor Belinda where, we could put on our website that, if citizens, I mean, this has to be discussed as council, so when Peter comes back, if you want to promote it as a citizen, would you have a story or history that you want to encourage more policing in our community?
Well, we've already had, I would say, we've already had the Legion come forward.
Yes,
You
100%.
know, and that's, you know, so we do have documentation. So this is just another one for that case, but can we make it a little even bigger and get it out to someone that's,
There has to be a solution. I mean, and let's be honest with each other. The government of the day has cut back tremendously on policing service. That's the harsh reality. So we can't sugarcoat it. That's where it is.
yeah.
And you're right, our municipalities, but I live in Hornepayne, so my concern is Hornepayne. I'm not so much concerned as somebody else.
The harsh reality is they have cut back on rural policing.
Yeah.
Yes.
GTA, the numbers are going up. The hires are up. The new
Yeah.
hires are up. They're cascading, hiring and hiring and hiring. And it's hard. Sure, I understand it's hard to get somebody to come north, but if you're going to get hired, then you have to go no different than the old days. You take a northern placement. That is, you know, we can't. But instead, municipalities are getting funding. The GTA is getting their numbers are going up. Rural Ontario is going down.
Yeah, I meant to say thank you. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Yeah. And because sooner or later, so in some community, there's gonna be disaster happens. And if you look at out the east and west, what happens in small communities, 500 and 1,000 people. But that's, keep contact and funnel and then we could put it on a website to funnel to this person. If you have concerns, lack of policing, they have a contact on a website and they could send a CC to us and directly to the person that's contact on the other end of provincial police services.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Is Peter on the police servicing or whatever?
He is on the board. I don't think that they've met yet. I think they're
Okay.
still
So
sorting
like
things
even
out.
this is a case that we can make a bigger case for him to present
Mhm.
as well, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that will help as well. I want to make sure that our police that we do have know that we aren't upset with them. It's,
No, it's the system.
Yeah,
And
the
we
system is
want
not
to support
providing
them as well.
Yeah, so that's
So,
why I'm hoping to work with Sergeant Bellinger and find who we can actually communicate with.
So it has to be done.
and
To help.
that's part of this letter.
Yeah. Something has to break.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Text. Well, is everyone good to for me to?
We're good.
It was perfect, I didn't even need a code, it just popped up.
Perfect.
It's magic.
Yes, it was. Okay, we're on item 8, correspondence, information only. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Shannon, second by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the correspondence information only package attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. And is there any comments on the agenda package from council? Okay, we wanted to make note of 8.3, Jen. Okay, did you wanna? Okay.
So 8.3, there's an opportunity for, to provide comments on the proposed amendments to 2 regulations with regards to, water and sewer works. The deadline to provide comments is November 11th. And if I may speak to another one?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, when I amended the agenda to include the Hornepayne lumber letter, that day I'd also received correspondence from Legion regarding the Remembrance Day service. So I included that on here. It's primarily under information only, but as I know council has a wreath, normally you guys discuss who will place that.
Okay, I have no problem going to the Remembrance Day service. I know I'll be there this year.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, I put the receipt, I acknowledge receipt to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 9, committee and board updates. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Ted Shannon. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby acknowledge receipt of the committee and board meeting minutes and summary reports attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. Any comment on those different minutes and reports? Go ahead, Councillor.
Through there, I read and analyzed the study, that excellent report that was put by Catherine Lewis. I think she did a commendable job. Gives me a snapshot.
Just, I'm gonna interrupt you there.
Is that what you're referring to?
No, that's 9.2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's what I did a month and a half ago, same thing.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll back up 2 steps.
So yeah, so we have the ADSAP meeting minutes, the public library board minutes, and NOMA's board meeting report. One discussion that Jen had brought up was a discuss to which resolutions to support in the NOMA package. And going through it, definitely, I think we need to support the Billy Bishop expansion and then the ONTC. There was 3 in there, and
One we had already provided a resolution for previously.
go down there. And with direction from council, Jen can bring those back to our next meeting for support resolutions.
Yeah.
Oh, the Ontario Immigration Nominee Program.
Yes, and we'd already supported that. Right.
And there is another one in here for paramedic services. However, they have not provided the letter yet, so I will bring that to council when they do.
I think I had some discussion points on the Billy Bishop expansion. Was that they should be looking at strategically locating some commercial airports in Northern Ontario. And I put forth that Hornepayne should be one. And I was in the Time to Grow plan for Northern Ontario that NOMA created, which is pretty extensive. I missed that we aren't part of the corridor for the highways within the plan. But I do think we should be included with the Ontario ONTC. Include that. I think that within the motion, we should have some inclusion that we are between Highway 11 and 17, and we're the route that gets used primarily when those parts of those highways close.
Yeah.
We are the center of it all.
That's right. We need to be recognized as such.
Mm.
Do you need any more information? Council, would you like to add anything to those support resolutions? No? Okay. Okay, is there any further comment? There being none, I'll put those reports and minutes for vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder for HHC. Moved by Councillor Ted Shannon, second by Councillor Drago Stefanik. Be it resolved that council does hereby acknowledge receipt of the 2023 annual report for the Hornepayne Housing Corporation, HHC, as provided by Catherine Lewis, Executive Director of the HHC. Counselor Sutana.
Thank you. Take
Go
two.
ahead. Yeah.
I read, studied, analyzed, excellent report by Catherine. Not being on the board, it gave me a snapshot of what has transpired, what is transpiring, and what will transpire in those three key words. Excellent job.
Bring that back to
I thoroughly
Catherine.
enjoyed reading it.
Okay. Yes, I have to commend Catherine for the work that she's done at the HHC, getting us to a place now where we are, I think, investment ready to move forward with housing within our community. It was a bit of a struggle getting us to this point, but I just think the report illustrates that completely of how much work's been done in the background and where we're at today. So if there's no further discussion on that, I'll put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, 9.3, council committee updates. Now I'll just go around the table. Councillor Belinda Kissmaker.
We just had a LCC meeting, another one's coming up, and the next one is to do with elections. That's basically all that's happening right now. The meetings have been very short.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Draves Bennett.
Yeah, thank you. I got PHU Board of Health meeting tomorrow in person. PHU Finance Committee, November 7th, virtual. Library Board meeting, November 26th, in person. PHU Merger Committee meeting, virtual, November 5. And I'm hoping to attend the CCG Group Council Chamber meeting on November 4th that you have here.
Okay.
As was requested, if the council members are available, and I'll make sure that I'm available.
Okay.
Thank you.
We had a hospital board meeting yesterday, and probably the thing that stood out the most is that, as it goes with the policing, is that they've now requested and looking at a non-violent, a crisis prevention interventions program at the hospital for staff, because people are coming in and are being unruly and disrespectful, and sometimes it gets audible and sometimes it hasn't got physical yet, but I mean, that's the step. So that's the next step, is to be able to prepare the staff to be able to avoid. I mean, and that's what CPI is. It's avoiding getting into it. It's not a self-defense. It's how to de-escalate and get the situation under control. So diffuse. That was the big. Other than that, the budget is going very well. Things, a lot of reduction in agency nursing, so that means dollars are getting spent where they need to get spent, which is very, very good. And Dr. Cameron has coverage into the spring, so wonderful. Things look well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I'm just looking back here. It's been quite busy, so trying to keep everything balanced between my new role and council has been interesting. I want to highlight for council that I did do an interview with FCM. They sought me out. It's for the Future of Rural and Northern Canada project. So FCM's hired a consulting firm to consult with all northern, or not all, but they're choosing some northern municipalities, rural municipalities, to talk about the different issues. I'm just gonna actually open this up. So we spoke about transportation, climate adaptation, infrastructure, housing and homelessness, and community safety. I was adamant that small municipalities in Northern Ontario do not have the staff support, and I highlighted the Housing Accelerator Fund, that it was a lot of staff time for us to apply for that first round. We didn't have the staff to apply the second round of just because of the adjustments within our municipality, and that it would be good and helpful for small municipalities to have that extra support. I said this can't come from southern parts of the country. It needs to be built and grown in the northern parts, because we deal differently just in sheer size. That like today, I drove 4 hours for a dentist appointment. So I talked about that, about having some sort of geographic or kilometer perimeter put into when they're making up boards or when they're looking at dividing up areas for consultation. One person to cover even the size of Algoma or up through to up to Timmins in that area. That's a lot for one representative to cover of those because we have unique needs in each. And I did highlight to our community of what we had done with the official plan and the zoning and how that attracted the hotel and how having investment ready products and paperwork in the background helps, but at the same time, we need further investments of, and I used housing as this example, was for the municipality to move forward on building housing, we need a capital injection. And if that's under a 0% interest loan over 5 years, that it has no payments and we can build houses and sell them, that would be an avenue to go. And just even having when we look at Hornepayne housing and within our own municipality, we have an economic development officer, that puts a lot of workload on 2 people to learn about all the different federal programming and provincial programming that's out there right now for housing. So I strongly said that across the north, I think that we need that extra support, and I'd rather it be if it's an arm or a branch of the different ministries or what have you, that they're actually located in the north, employed by people that live in the north and know our unique challenges. The interview lasted about an hour, and I'm hoping to see the final report. They'll come out in April, she figures, but at first it'll inform, if we have an upcoming election, they'll inform what northern and rural Canada needs to succeed. So I don't have any further information on that. We do have a mayor's meeting on October the 30th, and I'm not sure, Jen, did you decide if you're going to attend or not? Or
I'm still figuring.
okay,
No, I will let you know by the end of this week.
Sorry to put you on the spot,
No,
Jen.
it's okay.
Jen had reached out to me if this was something that she should attend or not, and I left it up to her discretion with her timelines and what she has in the background. So that'll be coming, and then I'll be attending with Drago as well to our emergency management table. So the only other thing that came about and is the Ontario Nonprofit Association has Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association has invited me to be on their panel to speak, and they covered the expenses to get me to Ottawa, and the HHC board thought it appropriate for Catherine to attend this conference as well. So we're going to travel together, and we've minimized expenses to make it happen for both of us to be able to be there. So we'll be going from November the 6th to the 10th attending that. And I'm looking forward to being a part of the panel. And that's it for now. Yeah. And I'll give council an update too on that association or that conference when it's done. Okay, moving on to new and other business. 10.1 is Infrastructure Ontario Construction Loan Financing. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Ted Cheneman. Whereas the capital plans for the township include the following projects to be started in the spring of 2025: arena renovations and Third Ave water distribution lines replacement and full road restoration. And whereas the funding has been obtained for a large portion of the construction costs, and whereas temporary financing will be required during the construction and long-term financing for the township's portion of the cost once projects are completed. Therefore, be it resolved that council does hereby authorize staff to proceed with the applications to Infrastructure Ontario for construction loan financing for each of the 2 projects named above, and with the option of long-term financing for the township's portion of the cost when the projects are completed. Any discussion on that motion? Those in favor? And that is carried. And 10.2 is auditing services. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Ted Cheneman. Whereas the Township of Hornepayne has not completed a request for proposal for auditing services for a number of years, and whereas the acting treasurer has recommended that this process be done prior to awarding the audit services for the 2024 year end, therefore be it resolved that council does hereby authorize staff to proceed with a request for proposals, RFP, for auditing services to commence with the 2024 year-end audit. Any discussion on that motion? I'm just wondering, with this motion, will we be into a longer year contract? Because usually we contract out for the reward for a term. I'm just wondering what the RFP will include for that.
So Richard and I are working on the RFP right now. I imagine it will be for, I think he said it's normally 3 to 4 years. Not sure. I can bring that information back to council.
I'm okay to go with, I know the maximum allowable in the municipal act is 5. So as long as it's within, like, even if we amend this to say within the municipal acts, legislation or something to that effect, does that work? Cause I'm gonna totally go with Richard's
Within the
recommendation.
guidelines of the municipal act.
Yeah,
Where would you want that amended in here, sorry?
do we wanna just add it to commence with the 2024 year-end audit?
For a term in accordance with the municipal act?
Perfect, Jen. Is this your job? Okay, with that addition, council, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, council discussion on branding implementation plan. Okay, and did Stacy want to speak to this first? Do you want to speak to this, Stacy, before we start asking council questions?
Maybe we'll start with council questions and then move into the discussion.
Okay. Go ahead, councilor.
Yeah, to you, Mayor. I know we discussed some financial aspect of this a couple months ago, but there's nothing attached. I thought I missed it. There was no financial information attached to this report, correct?
Dragon's right here.
Yes.
It's linked in the plan.
Yeah, you gotta click the view here in the
I'm
plan.
sorry I missed it altogether, and I
That's
don't
okay.
make excuses. I missed it.
I'll explain that a little bit.
Okay, I'll let you speak, and I got questions after this, not financial.
So the, but there was a link in
I did print
the
one for you.
implementation plan. You have it in front of you.
There we go.
So this, we were working, CT had given this to the team, so Eileen, Melissa and I were working with CT weekly. And as we were going through the plans, we were, some of the things on this implementation plan, actually quite a bit of them, $17,515 of assets, we actually got done, during the project. It was funded with the grant, so I had some money in there for marketing assets, and we actually got a lot of the designs done, in the process. Some of them, like, I know if you add these numbers up, they're astronomical. And we know as a community, we haven't had branding, so to go with all these right now is not my recommendation. Council would have to, just for the asset design, without purchasing and installing, we're looking at tens of thousands of dollars just for the brand launch. But you can see through the implementation plan, it talks about the phases that we need to do, right? I think it's on page, starting on page 6.
6, yeah.
Engage internal employees. So in the, with this implementation, we did almost all of the administration.
Excuse me.
So we actually got, let's give you a quick list. So these are things that we can do internal without asking for cash. So for the administration, we got the letterhead designed, the business cards, the e-signatures, the PowerPoint templates, the flyer templates, the brand launch flyers, and the report covers. So we got all those designed, and there's really a very minimal price tag. Business cards are normally part of our administration budget. Envelopes and letterhead, again, part of our normal administration budget. So for the administration, it's very minimal cost, and that's the very first part of our rollout, right? So to do most of the rollout in the administration section for sure is not a big cost, because we got the designs done through using the red funding, and the rest we done in our normal budget. Some of the other bigger aspects, the wayfinding signs, the street banners, all that stuff, we got that designed as well. But so we, in that section, we got the highway signs, the welcome signs, the street banners, the pull-up banners, the vehicle decals, all designed with that red funding as well. And the website, we got the press release, the banners, the home button, all designed ahead of time. But those will be extra costs to buy for purchasing. But at this time, tonight, I'm not asking for money to do that. I think, well, budget discussions are gonna start this month. So those things, I'll put together a package and say, okay, this is what I need for the 2025 budget. We're now at the end of October, right?
Yeah.
So is there any specific questions anybody has about the actual concept of the budget?
Council?
No, I
Any
think
questions?
that kind of took my questions. When I looked at the numbers yesterday, it was kind of like, whoa.
It's unfortunate, through Mayor, sorry, it's
Go ahead.
unfortunate you put a rough estimate, because I said, I missed this, it's my error. So how much is that, up to 50,000-60,000?
This
Yeah.
is just the design, 40, 50.
Okay, 40, 50, okay.
That's just for the design,
I
that's not
understand
for
that,
the
yeah.
ordering.
Yeah, well, I understand that.
So,
Thank you.
proposed, we probably do it for under 35,000, because we already have the assets.
Right.
So that's approximately what I'm gonna ask for when we can do the discussion.
Is there the possibility that we could apply for further red dollars to implement?
I can look into it.
Or the community well-being dollars, I think with Trillium, where they do, because that might work under the wayfinding. It seems ridiculous to all of us that live here, but people get lost in our community because we don't have good signage.
That's correct.
So I'm just wondering if that might be two avenues that we can look into. Go ahead, Councilor Taylor.
You're 100% correct, Mayor. When Lorena and I used to walk 2 or 3 years ago, very heavily walked on the bypass, numerous times people stopped by the tennis courts asking for our grocery store. And that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
A simple, grocery store, fresh mart, it would help tremendously. And plus, it makes the community look better.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, the places you go, you see, like, hey, look, very, very nice. Thank you.
Any further questions from council? Go ahead, Councilor Taylor.
Yeah, this is non-financial because they didn't have them. Engage internal employees. On page 6, phase 1.
So I think I'm looking at, some specific actions for that.
Okay.
So with the township employees, there's a lot of things that are gonna have to be implemented in the background. So the e-signatures are gonna have to be changed, all our correspondence, the fonts on all of our resolutions. All those little things, our fonts are gonna have to change, our colors are gonna have to change, our logos are gonna have to change. So what I'm proposing with the staff is to do an internal branding workshop. So we would have all the assets, we'd make sure everybody has the fonts on their computers, the colors on their computers. So all correspondence is gonna come with the new brand. So it's staff time for sure for the internal rollout, but we've been working on this for 2 years, so the staff's well aware of what things that we have to implement.
But still, there's massive amount of work to be done to transfer the old logos and all the things you mentioned. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Kim.
I did want to say, after discussing it with the Economic Development Officer, I did draft a motion for council, if council is willing to or wants to allow staff to proceed with beginning the implementation. So that we can start working on the behind the scenes stuff, if that would be of interest.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I would like to see, like, when we look at, engage internal employees, like, members of council, I would just like to see, the plan, in the sense from your, like, I love hearing this about the internal branding workshop, like, okay, we did this with staff, we're showing this to council, we're showing, like, most of it's in the branding package, but I don't believe the town big signs are in there, but we have the design for that, right? So I would like to see all of that ahead of time, and then just the plan of, you know, and if we can't afford 35,000 and we can't get the money for it, what would be your priorities to put out first? And then so that we can see, okay, we're gonna, you know, if we're gonna do the town signs, we know we're gonna have a ribbon cutting or some sort of thing, that sort of.
So I have that all prepared, like I have the steps for the first 3 phases.
Okay,
And then potentially where we're gonna get, because some of the monies could come out of our normal administration or some of our more normal budget. And so when I come back to council, the budget discussions, I can give you all that information if you like.
yeah,
Or
that,
I can go for it today.
no, I think it would be better so we can actually see and then give you time to prepare, Stacy. And then we can I have no problem passing the resolution night to get it rolling.
Yes.
But then that could be like our official, like, launch night of, say, one area if you wanted, or whatever. After this, like, people in the community will see how it's gonna start rolling out. I'm not trying to rush you at all.
No,
okay?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm like, please pass the resolution. So I can move on. It's been 2 years, everything's sitting on the shelf, I have all the background stuff ready to go, I'm just waiting for council to say you're allowed to. And then I can start working on the internal stuff.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're good with that, council? They're gonna start in the background.
I'm
Come
excited.
back and show us some more goodies on, okay,
Do need a motion.
okay, and we have a motion here for that?
I forgot to write
That's
with,
grand.
so that's
Thank you.
me handwriting it there.
Okay, before we put the motion on the floor, is there any other further questions? I wanna just double check my notes here. No, I think I have them all. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Belinda Kissmaker, second by Councillor Ted Cheneman. Be it resolved that council does hereby adopt and authorize staff to proceed with implementing the new brand for the Township of Hornepayne as developed by Cinnamon Toast. And I just want to double check my questions here.
For strawberry toast, thanks.
The one question that I did have here that I didn't ask was, do you foresee any issues with the plan in the way it's rolling out? Is it mostly monetary?
So I think that we're gonna have to do some adjustments. You can see from their template, this is what they suggest, but it's not something that we can do. So my recommendation would be to roll out what we can in year 1.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to push forward with the marketing right now, because I think we should do the launch of the internal and the community brand with the signage. That should be our marketing for 2025. And we should revisit after a year and say, okay, what's working, where are we missing? And again, we have the BRNE strategy coming into play in 2025. So I'm going to be visiting the businesses next year. So I'll incorporate the brand guide and how the businesses can participate in that process as well. So I think we don't have to do a lot of the marketing in the first year. I think if you remember the destination marketing plan, the suggestion was about $130 a day for marketing. It's about $113,000 they're recommending a year in that marketing plan. So I think what the best way to move forward is to do the initial launch, move if we need to move a little bit, but the plan is good, but we have to monitor the money and then revisit every year, right? This is our first marketing plan, do the initial launch, let that be our marketing for the first year. revisit, see if we're missing any areas, and we can do that every year budget,
Mhm.
right? So if we want, okay, we're gonna do marketing this year, but don't start with that $30,000 for marketing per year. I don't think we need to have that this year. We're gonna have the assets, we're gonna roll them out in a very comprehensive way. Let that be our marketing, and then start the marketing, especially because we don't have a social media policy right now, and lots of it's all about social media, right? And right now, we're not using social media, so push that off. We have the internal, we have the website, we're gonna start selling it to our community. We're gonna learn as an internal staff and council, we're the brand ambassadors. That's our job in the next year. And then after that, we can go further.
Okay, so that'll be included with what you'll bring back to us for the launch and everything? Okay, great, I think that'll be great, and I think the community will love it, so. Okay, and that was the 3 questions I had, were all answered. Okay, I'm putting this to a vote, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for your patience, Stacy. Okay, so 11 notice of motions, there are being none. And we're on to 14. Did I miss anything? That's where we're at? Okay. If I can get a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory, please. Moved by Councillor Belinda Christmaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2098, being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of council at their regular meeting held on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, be hereby read a first and second time, be considered read a third time, and finally passed. Those in favor? And that is carried. And our adjournment, moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Belinda Christmaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 at 9:05 p.m. Those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, council.